because Harry would like to believe that his father and his grandmother would love to do whatever he wants, but they are prevented by mean, horrid members of staff. The mean, horrid members of staff implement their wishes. As for this supposed rapprochement, and Harry's now all of a sudden going to be ending up back in the fold, it's absolutely not going to happen. The king doesn't want Harry back. The queen doesn't want Harry back. William and Catherine don't want Harry back. Everybody knows that Harry's treacherous. He's unpredictable. He is under the influence of various substances, as well as a rather massive malignant substance called Meghan Markle.
Prince Harry's deep and persistent desire to mend the fractured relationship with his father, King Charles, has taken center stage yet again, this time with the hope of bringing his dad to the opening ceremony of the Invictus Games next year in Birmingham, right here in Britain. The Invictus Games, a powerful symbol of resilience and recovery for wounded veterans, carries a significance far beyond sport. For Harry, it's not just a charitable event, it's a chance to close one of the most visible chapters of division in recent royal history. His ongoing mission to heal this rift is more than a personal quest, it's a public statement, a beacon signaling that reconciliation might finally be on the horizon. But this is about more than father and son mending fences. If Charles shows up, if he publicly supports Harry here, it sets off a ripple effect felt around the world. Everyone from investors and studios eager to collaborate with Harry to advertisers watching closely will interpret this moment as a major endorsement. It essentially says Harry's unique hybrid role.
It's Harry's sort of ongoing obsession with healing the royal rift. The central raft of that seems to be to persuade his dad, the king, King Charles, to be with him at the opening of the Invictus Games next year in Birmingham, here in Britain.
But here we are, 2026, and the biggest story in the world isn't about Hollywood success. It's certainly not about how well As Ever is doing. It isn't even about Netflix and how Harry and Meghan keep producing hit after hit after hit. Quite the opposite of that. And now we see this private meeting with King Charles, because this wasn't a victory. But what it was proof that everything has come full circle to a life of chaos and lies. If we were to look at Harry and Meghan and measure their success by their quest of independence, then you have to ask yourself this question. Why is the biggest headline of the year a visit back to the royal institution that they left? Why is that the story?
Part royal insider, part private citizen, is not just surviving but thriving. The half-in, half-out stance that has dominated Harry's public life since stepping back from frontline royal duties would be quietly but powerfully validated. This would mark a turning point in how the monarchy's modern, more flexible identity is perceived globally. Yet, beneath the surface of this hopeful gesture lies a far weightier and more precarious issue that the palace's inner circle is grappling with behind tightly closed doors. What will happen to Queen Elizabeth II's carefully crafted legacy if King Charles extends this olive branch? The late Queen's reign was marked by stability, dedication, and a clear, unwavering loyalty to royal duty. One principle above all others was held sacred. There was no middle ground. You were either fully committed to serving the crown, the public, and the institution, or you stepped away entirely. This boundary was firm, almost carved in stone. The challenge now is whether that boundary will be softened if an exception will be made for Harry, and what that means for the future of the monarchy's identity and values.
Invictus is fed up. Invictus is, like Senabale, done with the antics that Harry and Meghan always bring to the table, the circus that rolls into town with the Harry and Meghan show, whether it's the Buckingham Palace back and forth that Invictus had to clean up and deal with during Harry's trip to the UK to promote Invictus last month, or the what we saw with the the will they, won't they Highgrove meeting. It's just, and then Harry releasing that devastating statement, tearing into the King's court. He continuously puts Invictus in a difficult position. And Dr. Sophie Shandaka, she was so fed up, she's suing him for defamation, which is the next court case we get to look forward to in the
Could this be the moment that tradition bends to meet evolving family and public dynamics? Or will it spark a deeper conflict over the rules that have long defined what it means to be royal? Imagine living a life split between two worlds, one foot planted firmly across an ocean, the other towing the line of royal tradition. There's no easy middle ground where you can suddenly switch from building a lucrative career through public appearances and endorsements in Montecito on a Monday to seamlessly fulfilling ceremonial royal duties in London by Friday. It just doesn't work like that. To truly grasp why Harry is pushing so hard for reconciliation and clarity right now, you have to zoom in on the atmosphere inside Highgrove House during their recent meeting, a moment heavy with history, tension, and unspoken emotions. Think back to the last time Harry saw his father in person. It was no grand reunion, but rather a hurried 15-minute tea at Clarence House, squeezed in after the heart-wrenching news of the King's health diagnosis. Harry had crossed 11 time zones, flying for nearly half a day, only to sit down briefly with his father.
William doesn't want it, Catherine doesn't want it, Camilla doesn't want it, Edward doesn't want it, Anne doesn't want it. Harry's dream of getting together with the King, healing the rift, is just that. It's an impossible dream, isn't it?
I do think Prince Harry desperately misses his life in the UK. He's lonely in the States. He has no purpose here. He's not acknowledged. If he was Prince Harry, Princess Diana's son, rocking and rolling around the United States of America, doing $500,000 lectures left and right, I don't think he'd be crawling back to daddy. But the reality is the American dream hasn't worked out. Harry needs that royal proximity to stay relevant. And so, yes, in reuniting with his father somehow and making nice, it gives him some credibility that he can bring back to the United States.
The encounter so brief it almost seemed like a courtesy rather than a heartfelt reunion. He left feeling rushed and clearly escorted out, an interaction that left no room for healing or honest talk. Now, contrast that with the meeting at Highgrove. This time, it stretched well beyond an hour extra time that Harry and his team celebrated as a breakthrough. They were hopeful. The longer meeting felt like the chilly distance between father and son might be thawing. They put faith in the idea that the presence of the royal grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, would soften the King's attitude, a powerful, humanizing touchstone that could trigger a grandfather's love overcoming past grievances. Sources reveal that Meghan and the children were not just invited casually. Their appearance was a carefully planned moment, part of a crafted narrative meant to showcase family unity, even if it was tentative right in front of the King. The goal was clear: confront Charles with a living, breathing reminder of everything he might be missing, stir his grandfatherly emotions, and then, when the moment felt right, present the big request Harry had been preparing for. Specifically, Harry was hoping to secure Charles's commitment to attend one of the landmark events for the Invictus Games in 2025, set to take place in Birmingham, either its grand opening or inspiring closing ceremony, a step that could symbolize an important step forward for their fractured relationship.
Fortunately, a really difficult position for King Charles. As monarch, he is the commander-in-chief of the British Armed Forces. Service personnel swear their oath of allegiance to the king, to the crown. So that makes his presence at the event, honoring wounded and recovering servicemen and women, symbolically significant beyond any family dynamics. So I think that he is in a impossible position here, being asked to be there by Prince Harry, because, he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. Royal watchers will be livid because they will consider it giving Harry credibility by standing there next to him on a stage at Invictus. And if he doesn't, does it look like a betrayal of these, service people that have sacrificed so much for their country?
Alongside a lineup of some of the world's most glamorous, high-stakes sporting events, Harry's plan was clear. He wanted the full royal treatment. Picture this, the grand royal motorcade, the unmistakable official photographers capturing every moment, and the global press corps buzzing with excitement, all focused on one stunning image, the King of England, passionately cheering side by side with his once exiled son. On paper, it was a brilliant move, a win-win opportunity to signal healing and unity. But Harry made a colossal miscalculation about who he was really dealing with. King Charles, no doubt, is a father who loves and cares deeply about his son. However, he is also a seasoned monarch, a leader who has spent 4 relentless years weathering relentless attacks that have deliberately chipped away at his institution and legacy. This wasn't a man to be easily swayed by sentimental gestures or photo ops. Instead of snapping at the bait, Charles sat quietly.
Now, the Sussexes reportedly spend between $3 and $4 million annually on private security alone. They bought their Montecito mansion, 9 bedrooms, 16 bathrooms, we're told, which is not surprising, considering the amount of BS that this couple produce. So $14.5 million is what they paid in 2020, reportedly. And of course, don't forget, they only put down $5 million on the mortgage, with the $9.5 million reportedly still outstanding. So that's $500,000 a month on mortgage repayments. The insider has said they've got that big house in Montecito, not to mention the cost of their security. They have a very high financial bar to meet every month.
Listened with measured patience, nodded with polite restraint, and then delivered a response that was unmistakably clear, an institutional refusal, a firm no disguised in diplomatically careful words. Imagine the weight of that moment sinking in for Harry. Walking away from Highgrove, the ancestral home steeped in history and tradition, he must have felt a gut-wrenching realization, an hour filled with small talk and an invitation for a family photo wasn't the magic ticket to reclaiming the prestige and goodwill he had spent years eroding. The door that Harry believed might open with a warm welcome was, at best, cracked slightly ajar, just enough for a glimpse in before being forcefully shut again. The subtle finality of that moment can't be overstated. Now, focus on the tightrope Charles finds himself balancing on. His position is a complex, almost impossible trap wrapped in a nightmare dilemma. On one side, he is the Commander-in-Chief of the British Armed Forces, charged with representing and protecting a centuries-old institution. Yet on the other, he's a father grappling with family wounds played out not behind closed doors but in front of a global audience, every move scrutinized, every misstep amplified.
And Dr. Sophie Shandaka, she was so fed up, she's suing him for defamation, which is the next court case we get to look forward to in the discovery between WhatsApp messages, emails, and things that Harry put out between him, his team, and potentially Meghan. So Invictus has said, we need your father there. We want your father there.
This is not just royal protocol. This is a deeply personal challenge wrapped in the mantle of public duty, where every decision carries enormous consequences. The deep connection to military veterans is woven into the very fabric of his sense of royal responsibility. To simply decline an invitation to an international veterans event hosted right in the UK might appear cold or distant to outsiders. It seems like a straightforward gesture of support is being missed, but the situation beneath the surface is far more complex and delicate than it seems. If he agrees to appear alongside Harry in this setting, it would send a powerful message, one that risks shaking the foundations of the current royal dynamic. By stepping into that space with Harry, he would unintentionally undermine Prince William's standing, cast doubt on Princess Catherine's crucial role, and threaten the core principles of the working monarchy that continue to keep the institution stable and trusted by the public. And make no mistake, Prince William is not a passive figure quietly fading into the background on this matter. His approach is as steely and unwavering as ever, crystal clear in intention. William holds every sharp word from Harry's book, Spare, in his memory like a ledger of personal and public grievances. He is painfully aware of the waves of global media scrutiny and criticism that swept over the family during those difficult times, especially when Catherine was battling immense health challenges with unmatched dignity and courage. This isn't some petty family quarrel bubbling up from sibling rivalry. No, William's stance is strategic, focused on his role as the future king, a guardian fiercely dedicated to protecting the crown's legacy and ensuring its long-term survival for generations to come. He understands better than anyone that softening boundaries now doesn't just open doors, it changes the rules forever. Behind closed doors, sources reveal that William, alongside Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward, have been crystal clear with the king. The institutional legitimacy of the monarchy cannot be handed over or weakened by reconciliation that appears to diminish the authority and respect carefully built over decades. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the responsibility weighs heavily on their shoulders as they navigate this defining moment for the British royal family. They walked away from the scene, a family divided and strained in ways most outsiders can barely fathom. The resistance within the royal circle isn't just quiet hesitation, it's almost unanimous, a wall of unspoken but deeply felt opposition. Queen Camilla, no stranger to public scrutiny herself, recalls with a sharp edge the personal barbs cast at her in Harry's revealing memoir. Those words weren't just ink on paper, they were a powerful reminder of the fractures cracking through the family's image. Then there's Princess Anne, whose life has been a testament to tireless and often thankless dedication to public service. To her, Harry's demands aren't just requests, they come across as a striking example of entitlement clashing with decades of tradition and responsibility. Prince Edward, meanwhile, watches with growing concern at how these public disputes are slowly but surely eroding the collective respect for royal duty that he has worked diligently to uphold. Taken together, their voices convey a clear message to King Charles. Stepping onto that stage alongside Harry isn't an expression of distracted fatherly affection, it's a surrender to institutional chaos, a capitulation that risks the very foundation of the monarchy's respected legacy. But what did Charles do when this emotionally charged plea landed in his hands? He didn't erupt in anger. He didn't stage a dramatic confrontation. Reports reveal something much more subtle and arguably more painful unfolded behind the palace walls. Rather than reacting with defiance or denial, Charles chose to defer, deftly sidestepping a direct refusal but simultaneously setting up new hurdles. In doing so, he created structural barriers that, in effect, make Harry's ideal public appearance alongside his family a near impossibility. Slowly, details are emerging about the compromise quietly circulating within the highest levels of the palace hierarchy, a carefully crafted plan that aims to allow Charles to honor the military personnel without giving credence to what some insiders mock as the Sussex media spectacle. The terms are clear and uncompromising. Any appearance Charles makes must exclusively focus on paying tribute to military staff, meaning Meghan Markle's involvement would be entirely off limits. She would be excluded not just from the main stage and its ceremonies, but also from any accompanying photo opportunities. This condition reveals a delicate balancing act. The king's commitment to duty and tradition must remain intact, even as tensions in the family continue to simmer beneath the surface. Imagine a scene unlike any royal event we've seen before, a perimeter around Montecito, but missing the usual splashy fanfare. No grand joint royal entrances that send cameras spiraling into frenzy. No bustling Netflix crews hanging around, cozying up in plush VIP lounges, capturing every whispered word in crystal clear 4K. Now, pause for just a moment and let the weight of that sink in. Picture telling the locals of Montecito the affluent, the curious that the royal visit will indeed happen, but with one very unusual condition: the person who's always been the puppeteer behind the scenes, the one directing every narrative twist and turn, the so-called director of the story, must stay far away, at home. Can you imagine that breakfast table conversation in California? Picture this: over steaming cups of coffee, someone leans in and says, "Hey, good news. Prince Andrew will be attending the upcoming games, but there's just one tiny catch: you're not allowed to be there. You can practically hear the gasp on the other end, the shock, the disbelief, because this isn't just a simple boundary or a preference. This is a calculated, almost impenetrable fortress being built around the royal figure. It's the kind of move that sends a clear message to the world. You want the royal story, but only on our terms, without the usual scriptwriter calling the shots. What makes this so profoundly fascinating is that we're witnessing a stark contradiction. The very people who proclaimed just a few years ago that they wanted to escape the suffocating grip of royal life, the endless scrutiny, the rigid protocols, the heavy pressure now find themselves desperately clawing to regain even the smallest semblance of that same order. Why? Because when the curtain is pulled back, the messy reality is setting in fast, and it's far less glamorous. And that reality hits hardest when you start breaking down the money side of things. This is where things get truly intense. 4 years ago, the public was fed a hopeful story, a narrative of total financial independence. We heard whispers, echoes, really of massive deals signed behind closed doors, contracts rumored to be worth upwards of $100 million. Netflix, it was said, was the golden ticket, ready to bankroll this new self-sufficient chapter. But when you peel back the layers, the glimmer of financial freedom starts to look more like a fragile dream teetering on the edge. The emotional strain transforms into something much more gripping, an urgent structural scramble to maintain status, power, and control before the illusion crumbles entirely. Imagine striking million-dollar deals with Spotify, alongside endless commercial opportunities lined up in California. A dream scenario, right? But as the buzz settles, legal experts and insiders have started to peel back the shiny surface. What they're uncovering is downright shocking. Those blockbuster headline numbers, many of them were wildly inflated projections, often tied to complicated project benchmarks that were never actually reached. So what does that mean in reality? Spotify eventually pulled the plug, severing ties completely, with top executives unflinchingly branding the involved party as grifters, a term loaded with disappointment and mistrust. Then there's the much-publicized Random House book deal for Time's Spare. The headlines boasted a staggering $20 million advance, enough to make anyone's jaw drop. But beneath that impressive figure, the truth tells a different story. After dishing out hefty fees to ghostwriters, agents, taxes, and top-tier public relations firms aiming to maintain an unblemished image, the actual money left in the pocket was just a small slice of the promised fortune. On the other side of the Atlantic, the expenses don't relent, especially in Montecito. Picture a sprawling luxury estate with a multi-million-dollar mortgage weighing heavily each month. Add to that private armed security teams working 24/7, a service that alone racks up millions every year to ensure safety and privacy. And legal battles. They're not just a footnote here, they're an ongoing storm. After losing a high-profile defamation lawsuit against the Daily Mail Group, legal fees pushed the costs into the millions. Legal experts estimate that total litigation expenses across multiple UK tabloid squabbles might balloon somewhere between a jaw-dropping $13 million and $18 million. Just take a moment and imagine the scale of those figures' numbers that tell a story far from the glossy headlines. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. $18 million just on legal fees alone. Yes, nearly a staggering sum that sounds more like a national budget than the legal battles of an individual. Inside the palace walls and royal circles, whispers began to ripple could close allies, perhaps even legendary friends like Elton John, be plotting ways to step in. Ideas floated around of extending world tours or orchestrating grand fundraising efforts, all aimed at helping cover this soaring mountain of legal expenses. Now, whether these rumors were ever true or just idle speculation, the very fact that people are talking about celebrity rescue funds paints a vivid picture of the financial storm they're navigating. When your traditional streams of income start drying up fast, and legal costs soar to numbers that rival small countries' budgets, it forces you to ask what happens next. How do you maintain a lifestyle while the financial ground beneath you crumbles? Unfortunately, the glamorous commercial enterprises once promising to fill these gaps have largely missed the mark. Take Meghan's array of lifestyle ventures, for example, which are said to feature everything from jam jars and flower sprinkles to luxurious gift sets. Rather than being embraced as innovative and heartfelt, these products have often been met with public doubt and sharp criticism, dismissed as lackluster promotional stunts, especially when accompanied by carefully choreographed paparazzi moments designed to create buzz. The reality is harsher in the business world. The speaking engagements that used to command bewildering sums, sometimes upwards of $1 million per event, have now dwindled drastically to a fraction of that, often fetching standard corporate fees of around £50,000 or less. In the real marketplace, success can't be manufactured by waving at a crowd or relying on government-backed goodwill. Real value has to be delivered, substantive, and consistent. And when a high-profile documentary falls flat or fails to connect with audiences, those cracks in reputation only widen further, tightening the squeeze on finances and public goodwill. The studio demands immediate results. There's no room for excuses. If a podcast doesn't hit those all-important numbers, contracts are shredded without a second thought. In the unforgiving landscape of Hollywood, reputation and credibility are everything. So, when it becomes crystal clear that you don't actually have access to the royal balcony, the glamour and prestige you once paraded vanish in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, what once looked like a golden ticket turns into little more than a costly illusion. Now, imagine watching a man pour every last penny into lawsuits, fighting newspapers over reports and accusations they call him out, and he fights back with legal firepower. It's a costly, messy spectacle. At first glance, you understand how the system can be manipulated, but when his business ventures start to dry up one after another, and then he scrambles to his father, begging for a photo opportunity with royalty just to keep his brand alive, you have to stop and ask, what was the strategy here? Did anyone really run the numbers before making these moves? It's baffling to think that someone would walk away from a billion-dollar empire, splash out on a mansion far beyond their means, sink millions into legal battles, and then act bewildered when the cash starts to disappear. The whole scenario is just mind-blowing in its recklessness. And while that storm brews, there's something else brewing quietly behind the scenes, something most people aren't talking about. The Invictus Games, a beacon of hope and healing for wounded service members, is going through a profound transformation. The folks running the show, the board members, seasoned veterans, military leaders, and dedicated professionals are the backbone of an organization built on honor and service. They created Invictus to provide purpose, community, and inspiration for those who sacrificed so much. But over recent years, the entire atmosphere around the Games has shifted in ways no one is openly addressing. What started as a powerful symbol of resilience and recovery is now facing internal changes that could redefine its entire future. So, what did the headlines end up focusing on? Was the spotlight shining on the awe-inspiring gold medalist veteran, the one who battled through unimaginable injuries to stand victorious? Was the story celebrating the remarkable journey of military rehabilitation, courage and resilience that brought this hero back from the brink? Or did the media instead obsess over the designer coat worn at the arena, turning a moment of triumph into a fashion spectacle? Was the narrative centered on the hard-fought battles of recovery and the spirit of the Invictus Games? Or did the spotlight drift toward behind-the-scenes legal skirmishes and strategic media maneuvers? Behind the headlines, the reality was far messier. The demands of protecting the royal family amid relentless media scrutiny began to feel like an exhausting, never-ending circus for those charged with leadership. What was supposed to be a shining celebration of strength and unity was increasingly overshadowed by personal PR moves and infighting. Sources from inside the palace have revealed just how frustrated top officials have become tired of the chaotic leaks, the erupting palace disputes, and the growing reputational damage that no amount of spin could repair. Adding further tension to an already volatile situation, legal battles move to the forefront. Of particular note is the high-profile defamation lawsuit brought by Invictus co-founder Dr. Sophie Chandler against Harry. This case is now entering the critical discovery phase, which means private WhatsApp conversations, internal emails, and sensitive corporate communications could soon be laid bare for the world to see. These exchanges between Harry, his team, and potentially Meghan may uncover the tangled web of strategies, decisions, and disagreements behind the scenes. Invictus representatives have been clear about one thing: the importance of the veteran's presence, insisting, "We need your father there." His role is essential. This request highlights how much the personal dynamics and public perceptions intertwine with the core purpose of the event to honor and uplift those who have served. But as the legal drama unfolds and tensions simmer beneath the surface, the question remains: will the true story of bravery, healing, and unity be heard, or will the chaos drown out the voices that matter most? In the end, this saga isn't just about headlines or lawsuits. It's about the people, the veterans who inspire us, the families who support them, and the complex world of visibility and vulnerability when public figures face the glare of the spotlight. It's a powerful reminder of the human stories at the heart of every headline, waiting for us to listen beyond the noise. If you found this journey compelling and want to stay connected to stories that peel back the layers of public life, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and share it with friends who love diving deep into real-world narratives. And of course, we want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What part of this story stood out the most to you? Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching.